A very good afternoon and welcome to the panel on green hydrogen as a building block for the South African Just Energy Transition. We'll look at the Just Energy Transition Partnership and the contribution of green hydrogen as part of the energy mix for South Africa. On our panel today, Minister Barbara Creecy, who's the Minister for Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, Joanne Bate, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the Industrial Development Corporation, Maria Shaw-Barragan, who's the Director of Lending in Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, Asia, Latin America at the European Investment Bank, Tanya Verheit, who's the German Consular General, and Dr. Andrea Lovato, who's the Executive Vice President and Global Head of Renewable Development at ACWA Power. Thanks so much all for your time today, and thanks so much for your time and attention in the room. Minister, perhaps I'll start with you. If we can just, each of us have a 3-minute opening statement, just talking about the Just Energy Transition and more before we go into the detailed questions. Lovely. Do you have a mic? No. Okay.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everybody, and let me acknowledge my fellow panelists. Maybe you can repeat your question.
We're going to be taking a look at green hydrogen as a building block for the South African Just Energy Transition. So before we go into the more detailed questions, if you have an opening statement that you'd like to make, let's do that. Can I please ask that we do it in 3 minutes or under, and we're going to start from you and end here.
Well, I think that what one would want to say by way of an opening is that coming back from COP27 in Egypt, one got a sense there of the scale of the technological change that is taking place currently across the globe. And one also got a very strong sense of the enormous competitiveness that exists within the green hydrogen space. Egypt, Morocco, Namibia were all positioning themselves at COP27 as green hydrogen producers and green hydrogen investment destinations. And of course, Morocco and Egypt have a benefit that we don't have, and that is their proximity to Europe and the possibilities that exist within their space of having a direct pipeline to Europe. And I think what this made me realize is that as a country, we have significant advantages. We are one of the 10th sunniest countries in the world. We own the Fischer-Tropsch technology. We are already have our hydrogen roadmap that has been approved by Cabinet. So there's lots of opportunities there, but it's a very competitive space, and we need to get into it sooner rather than later if we want to be able to take advantage of the opportunities and the competitive advantage that we already have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tanya?
Thank you so much, Nzinga. Thank you, Minister, and thanks for inviting me. I think it's a huge privilege to be together with you here on the stage. And you might have noticed that there is quite a substantial German presence throughout the day in this conference here, and also, by the way, already yesterday. And you might ask yourselves, why is this the case? And the reason is simple. The reason is because we believe in this country. We believe in South Africa. We believe in a very strong, long-standing German-South African partnership with a lot of building blocks, with a lot of diverse and many issues which we cover. And we believe in JETP. We believe in JETP as a first of its kind, actually, as a true flagship project of shared responsibility for climate action, and it's complementary to the COP27 and the COP outcomes in general. And this is, I think, the most important pillar of our cooperation, the German-South African cooperation with other partners these days. Now, believing is one thing, but what do we do? What do we actually do? How does this belief in our partnership materialize? It materializes with a huge commitment. So during the last months and weeks, we have considerably increased our commitment. First of all, during our bilateral government negotiations in October, we have committed an additional 320 million euro. And then shortly before COP27, we have added a further 60 million euros of grant funding to the support of development of green aviation fuel, and also to the program to strengthen the just pillar, and maybe we'll come back later in the panel on that very important just element of the energy transition. So overall, we now come to a sum of 1.1 billion euros that is committed by Germany for the JETP, or within the margins of the JETP. 25% of it is grants and the rest is loans. And I think, I mean, it's sometimes hard to imagine how many nils this is, not only in euro, but in particular in rand. And there you can see that over the next couple of years, there will be considerable spending in this Just Energy Transition Partnership in order to support South Africa on its way towards a modern, clean, social and sustainable energy supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Working.
It's working. Oh, yes, it is working. So, thanks very much. First, I want to thank the government of South Africa for having organized this conference. I think it is fantastic, and I want to congratulate the audience. This is the place to be, of the whole world right now. This is the place to be. So you made the right choice. It's really the right conversations that are happening in this building over yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And now coming to your question, just energy transition. I think the question of whether we need energy transition is not controversial. We all know that this is needed. But what is important is that we put emphasis on the just part. And on this, for the European Union, I represent the European Investment Bank, we are the Bank of the European Union, and therefore, for us to be able to contribute, to participate together with South Africa in this trip that you have decided to take is already a privilege, and that I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity. We are then part of the partnership of the Just Energy Transition Partnership as European Union, together also with some of the member states of the European Union as well. We represent 1.03 billion of this partnership. But what's very important for us is that this is really about South Africa and what you're doing for yourselves. It really has to be about you going through the transition, making sure that there is affordable, clean energy for everyone that can foster your own economy. And then if you have any left, and if there is anything that can be exported to the European Union, it will be very, very much welcome. Because here, again, the question of diversification of sources of energy. We have all learned, and we are really suffering it in our own skins in the European Union, what it means to be dependent on one source or one location in terms of supply of energy. So diversifying and using is available in many places, and that it is sustainable and that can help the planet is the right way. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.
Absolutely, also from my side, thank you very much to be here. And also, I'd like to remind something in relation to the energy transition in South Africa, because South Africa has been absolutely at the forefront of the energy transition, starting in 2010 when the procurement started, the renewable project here in the country. And that was the first procurement for renewable that brought the feed-in tariff to a competitive competition between private sector to compete and provide the lowest cost possible for the renewables. So South Africa absolutely contributed to the energy transition starting many years ago and led the world by example. competitive tenders for renewable started then. They applied in South Africa very successfully, reduced the tariff for PV since 2010 to today more than 85%. Wind, more than 90%. Thermosolar, even more than 110% globally. So South Africa is very pleased that I've done this, and we are here for that reason. We talk about green hydrogen, because green hydrogen, obviously 75% of the cost for producing green hydrogen is renewables. So South Africa has been really part of this motivational evolution of green hydrogen. Today, green hydrogen is competitive for that reason, because renewables are competitive, and I'm very pleased that South Africa now do the step to make green hydrogen and entering green hydrogen with experience and the fact that they lead the world on this first big step.
Thank you. Thanks. And I think to add on, it's always hard coming last because I have to find something different to say. But coming from the Industrial Development Corporation, our interest is not in green hydrogen as an energy source, but what it can actually do for the industrial opportunity in the country. So we very much see, why are we doing this is decarbonization and the energy transition. What we're doing is growing the economy through new industrial opportunities, and how we're doing it is through inclusive and just development. So what's really exciting about the green hydrogen opportunity is the manufacturing base that it actually reinvigorates. We saw yesterday with the visit to Saldanha the reopening opportunity of the steel plant off the back of now a sustainable, cost-effective and green energy source. So I think what's most exciting to us in the just transition around green hydrogen is the opportunity to create new industrial pathways, globally competitive project, and new and innovative jobs within the space. So we really see it as a great economic and people opportunity, as opposed to just an energy opportunity.
Thank you very much. Minister, I'm going to start the round of questions with you. If you can please share your thoughts on the potential for green hydrogen generation. Does the requirement for dedicated supply of renewable energy source for green hydrogen conflict with energy poverty in South Africa?
Well, I think Joanne's already begun to answer that question when she said that we regard green hydrogen as a potential new source of energy. So obviously, in order to move from grey hydrogen to green hydrogen, one would need a renewable resource, a renewable power generation source. And I think that is completely factored into the way in which we are approaching the development of this technology. But for me, the most significant issue is the fact that green hydrogen provides us with the answer to a question that up to now has eluded us in the transition from high carbon technology to lower carbon energy sources. And that is, what do you do about the hard to abate sectors? How do you deal with moving steel, cement, aviation, the shipping industry to a low carbon footprint? And I think this is the answer is to be found in green hydrogen technology. And we already have the solar technology that is required for the energy generation. What we need is technology that will help us with these hard-to-abate sectors. And of course, we have the Fischer-Tropsch technology that is able to turn a carbon source into a liquid fuel. What we require is to be able to do this using renewable energy. As I've already explained, South Africa is one of the 10th sunniest countries in the world. The energy requirements of this project are not under the integrated resource plan. So it's not energy that would otherwise be used to power people's homes and enable us all to watch the World Cup when we get home in the evenings. So I think that the answer to your question is no. It doesn't intensify energy poverty. In fact, it helps us find solutions to hard to abate sectors that we've been grappling with to date.
Maria, the European Investment Bank aligns to the European Green Deal through its energy lending policy and invariably achieving the European continent's vision of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. What's been the process to date on the phasing out of financing of fossil fuel projects?
I'm happy that you ask about the financing and not about the fossil fuel, because right now, in the short term in the European Union, we are unfortunately having to rely more on fossil fuels. But in terms of financing, we have a very clear analysis, and it is, we are talking about assets that would have a long economic life. It will take a few years to build these new assets. So it really does not make sense if we mean it about not going beyond 1.5 degrees in terms of global warming, and if we mean it about the Paris Accord commitments, and when I say if we mean it, the thing is, if we don't mean it, we are really going against the wall for ourselves already and for the future generations. So we have to mean it. That means that there is no economic rationale for now investing in fossil fuel-related new infrastructure. There's none. And for us as a long-term investment bank, we're following this economic logic and saying, if you are going to invest, then invest in the future. Don't invest in the past, in something that we know is going to become a stranded asset sooner rather than later. And that's why then for us, it is no fossil fuel financings since 2019. We had, in fact, stopped even before, but it is a policy of the European Investment Bank. We don't touch anything that is related to fossil fuels. This also means that there are some industries that we could not be supporting. And now green hydrogen, the possibility of using green hydrogen in these difficult to abate industries means that there is a new opportunity here. And there, in terms of research and development and in terms of supporting those industries, we're very keen to be participating. But investing in fossil fuels is clearly something of the past. We now, with information we have, we wish we had not done it in the way it was done before, but let's clearly not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Dr. Lovato, Andre speaking about looking to the future. Aqua has global experience in technology when it comes to desalination, green hydrogen generation, and renewable energy generation. You've also signed an MOU with the IDC on exploring potential for development of green hydrogen. Talk me through how that MOU came about, and also continue speaking about looking to the future when it comes to energy generation and,
Yeah, allow me to go back on the fact that we started our journey in green hydrogen coming from obviously renewables and coming from desalination. Both parts of green hydrogen obviously come from water and from renewables, with the clear objective to accelerate the energy transition. We believe that we have been contributing together with others at the reduction of cost of renewables, as you mentioned before, PV, wind, and thermosolar, with plants, a lot of plants here as well in the Republic of South Africa. And hydrogen is a completion of that, as we said before. So hydrogen is the way that we'll say we are producing electrons to a certain point. We enter in an era that will produce molecule and electron and at the same time. And we will come to an era where electron and molecules will be interchangeable. So this is basically where we go through on this, let's say, evolutions. What we did in 2018, we started the development of our project in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and that is an integrated project from the desalination to the solar and to the wind, producing 1.2 million tons of green ammonia. This is approximately 210,000 tons per year of green hydrogen. This is the first project that has produce hydrogen competitive with diesel, because that project is a bank project, is project financing, not a cost project financing. And the end product, in the 30-year long term of the concession, produced before crisis, a green hydrogen was competitive in certain geography already with diesel before the crisis, before the Ukrainian crisis. So this was the boost, let's say, it's demonstrated that green hydrogen is there. The first step is there, and then we'd only reduce cost. The second aspect is demonstrating that these deals, this big project, they can be project finance. in a normal way like the other type of infrastructure is done also here in terms of renewables. And this again justifies the fact that we can produce green hydrogen at low cost. The start, obviously, a new era that allows to extend this production from one side of the renewable, from the other side of the green hydrogen.
Tanya, given that recent announcement by Germany that it's doubling its contribution to South Africa's JETP program and also the consideration of inclusion of capacity building support, technical studies and concessional loans, what would you say are the key short-term deliverables?
They are many, actually, I think. I mean, first of all, we have been moving at a quite considerable pace since last year. I mean, if we look a year back, the JETP partnership between South Africa and the 5 international partners, France, the UK, the US, the European Union, and Germany, was only announced last year during the COP26 in Glasgow. This year, we made a considerable step forward when the South African government presented the investment plan with the 3 building blocks of energy transition, green hydrogen, and electric vehicles, which is all the 3 of them are where Germany has already been working together with South Africa. Now, we have been working, as I said, within our energy partnership. So that is a bilateral energy partnership that we have been maintaining for quite some time. And there we agreed to develop the infrastructure for renewable energy. For example, construction of solar, wind, biomass plants, transmission lines for green hydrogen, and also vocational education and training, which is, as you might know, a very core element of our commitment here in the country. Only yesterday, there was a new agreement signed in the margins of this conference, where our development bank, KfW, together with the Industry Development Corporation, IDZ, signed an agreement on granting 23 million euro towards the commercialization of green hydrogen, which is actually a massive step towards getting the private sector involved. And I think maybe Joanne can elaborate a bit further on this. The funds will be made available very soon and boost the economy towards a green hydrogen industry.
Okay, Joanne, that's a good place to bring you in. The IDC has been quite proactive in the hydrogen space, given the recent work on the commercialization plan. So if you can tell us a little bit about what that is and how you foresee the rollout of the plan in the short term.
There we go. So the commercialization plan, the work was kicked off in June 2021. Together with public sector and private sector partners, was building off the Hydrogen Society roadmap, which was, I think, went through Cabinet last year. And we had partners from DSI, from DMRE, DCIC, the Presidency, private sector partners included SASL, Anglo. I'm going to forget multiple other names, but we had a number of public and private sector partners looking not only at the green hydrogen opportunity, as I said earlier, which is not just about the green hydrogen, green ammonia for export, but looking at the value chains locally. We sit on a significant amount of global platinum, which is a critical input into electrolyzer capacity. So what is the opportunity in local production of green hydrogen value chain components? And then more importantly, how is the green hydrogen utilized in decarbonizing critical manufacturing capacity locally? Also within the green hydrogen panel, we were identifying what are the skills of the future that are required, or the skills of now that are required to unlock the hydrogen opportunity. So it's very much a holistic plan to understand how can we accelerate a role within green hydrogen for South Africa to take its rightful place in the global platform. As Minister Creasy said, what was very apparent at COP is how fast it's moving. So the plan will be going through Cabinet, and thereafter it'll be made available for public comment. But in parallel, the 17 projects that underpin the commercialization plan are articulated in the country investment the JET investment plan. Those projects are all in various stages of development currently and are in the process, as Minister Dalal said, of being gazetted so that they can, in fact, benefit from accelerated timelines.
Okay, Maria, Joanne's just brought up COP27. Do you have any reflections that you'd like to share with us on the recent COP27 and multilateral development banks' role in strengthening country-level support on private sector climate investment? It's coming.
Okay. Should I touch it or not? Okay, now it works. Okay, I had the privilege to be there at COP27. I saw also the leadership that South Africa demonstrated in COP27. The European Investment Bank, we are involved in the JET piece with other countries. But really the example that you gave, showing that within 1 year you have the investment plan, that things are really moving, that together with IDC we can make things happen. I think this was essential. So I really want to congratulate South Africa about this. For me, the big takeaway, and let's remember that this was the COP of Africa and it was the COP of implementation. So what multilaterals were presenting there is how we are working with Africa and how we are implementing. It was not the COP of the big announcements, and I know that some people were kind of disappointed because there were not new great announcements going forward, and there were a few and some very important ones. But because this time it was about doing step by step, action by action, each one of those commitments that we had been taking in the past. In terms of the multilaterals, and for the European Investment Bank, one value that we see that we can really bring to these conversations is the fact that we are working inside the European Union and outside the European Union. At the beginning, you were listing all the regions that I am responsible for, and what's useful of this is that we can facilitate that exchange between European companies, local companies, make the connections, and make sure that we are all moving forward together. So that connection of the North and the South, and also the public sector and private sector, because let's be clear about the just energy transition, and in particular with regards to green hydrogen, it's really a huge public-private partnership. The private sector is key. They are the ones that are going to be producing the renewable energy and the green hydrogen. They are the ones that are going to be in the value chain upstream and downstream. But the government is crucial. The government can make this happen, can accelerate it, and can facilitate the environment where this is happening. So being able to participate on the North and the South and with the public sector and the private sector is how we think we can best bring our contribution to the efforts of everybody else. Then finance is the easy part, at least for a bank, clearly for us. That's the part that is really not an issue. We have the funds, the European Union will be stepping up, there's no question about this. But what we see as our role is just facilitating, and it is supporting governments and supporting the private sector.
Andrea, as Maria is speaking about collaboration, perhaps we can come back to how you were speaking about the MOU with the IDC and just what you foresee as key deliverables on this joint collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration is absolutely a key in this sector, as mentioned before. Also for the size of this project. This project is a large size, the project large capacity. This capacity needs to be partly exported for a country like South Africa, so cooperation is absolutely, as mentioned before, very important. And this is an important cooperation for us. It's not a cooperation that born in this project, but born a long time ago. And it's a cooperation that obviously will bring large capacity to South Africa. I think this morning has been announced the project that we intend to develop. And this is the experience that we built, this first Lego piece that we call Lego piece, that is a project that deploy capacity at a cost that today is already competitive against the diesel, can be brought internationally. So we are busy to do it in different countries, and South Africa is the best country to do that for us since long time, and the potential obviously is the resource and is absolutely very high, supporting the green hydrogen growth.
Tanya, as we're looking to the future of energy, we can't obviously forget the context that we're in. We are aware of the impact of COVID-19. and load shedding and what's that had on our economy globally and locally, are there any short-term interventions which would be regarded as interim solutions in view of the JETP program?
Yes, they are. For example, 2 weeks ago, the German and the French development banks have concluded an agreement together with the South African Treasury on concessional loans of 600 million euros. So that means 300 from Germany, 300 from France. And these can be spent directly into the energy transition by South Africa. But if you allow me, I just wanted to emphasize the just element of this transition we are talking about. I think this is very important, and this is where our cooperation is very committed in. And this, of course, comes because we as Germany, we have been relying heavily on coal for many years as well. I myself come from a region where there has been a lot of coal and only recently we are phasing out, and we hopefully will conclude this process by 2030, sorry. And as you all know, there are some political and geopolitical constraints right now which is challenging. Now, what we will launch next week is a program that is called Just SA. And that is, and the idea here is to actually help the communities that will be affected by the phasing out of coal, so the areas in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga, in Gauteng, where we need to offer opportunities and alternatives to coal. So this means, what do we do with the mines? How do we refurbish mines? How do we rehabilitate mines and also coal-fired power plants? I think this is a long-term project, and we are very committed to get engaged there, and will offer hopefully many alternatives and work together with the affected communities.
Okay. Minister, how can this just energy transition be fast-tracked, given the impact that energy security has as a critical enabler on the South African economy?
Well, I think that I would like to start where Tanya ended off and say that our president has always emphasized that this just energy transition has to help us with two things. First of all, it has to help us with the broader socioeconomic problems of economic exclusion, unemployment, poverty, and inequality in our society. And secondly, it has to help us ensure that we achieve energy security. So if we look at that as the background framing of what we're trying to achieve, in the short term, I think there are three immediate steps. The first step is that now that the investment plan is out, we need to have a period of public engagement that will be run by the Presidential Climate Commission, so that those who are directly affected by this transition can participate in framing its outcomes and can ensure that they are the direct beneficiaries. And the Climate Commission has indicated that this process of engagement will take a couple of months, but it will be finished by the middle of February. In the meantime, we need to appoint a high-level project manager, because we're now moving into the implementation phase. You've heard that the first tranche of money is already on its way to us. So we need to move out of framing of the problem to the actual implementation, and that means that we're going to have to develop a clear implementation plan and a project pipeline, so that as finances become available, we have projects that are investment and implementation ready. And lastly, we obviously have to work on the broader financial issues. Our president has already indicated to our partners that we need to see greater grant financing, because the active labor market policies that we want to implement to ensure justice in this process require more grant financing. We're going to be approaching philanthropies that have an interest. We've indicated to our partners that we will make the circle bigger, and we will work with new partners and new countries who want to participate. And lastly, of course, we've got to mobilize significant private sector resources so that we can achieve the 1.5 trillion rand figure that has been indicated we will need from now until 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open up the floor to questions for the last 15 or so minutes. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I'm just checking that there is someone at the back who's able to assist with microphones. It's not going to be me, so maybe perhaps if you're going to be raising your hands, you're going to also be projecting quite loudly. When you do ask your question, please let us know who it's directed to and let us know who you are. Are there any questions from the floor? All right. Thank you so much. Can we spare a mic from here, please?
Thank you. My name is Kanyiselo Khumalo, and I represent HDF Energy. I think the conference today, or the summit rather, has been quite useful at painting the imperativeness of a just energy transition and how South Africa is clearly an indispensable player in that space. My question is directed to whoever feels comfortable to take the question in the panel, but it's more on the just energy transition. So looking at Mpumalanga, which today is the coal hub of South Africa, and how you have communities that depend on the continued existence, or have dependent on the continued existence of the coal economy. What we've come to realize is that there is a strong lack in congruence with government in terms of what a just energy transition means and how you're going to measure that impact. So my question is, to what extent can that lack of congruence between the different stakeholders in government impact our ability to see that the impact that we're trying to make? And how can we have key performance indicators in place that hold private sector accountable to those targets?
Thank you.
Me?
Yeah, it does look like it's me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khumalo. I think that you're asking the most important question of this discussion. Obviously, one needs to say, first of all, that the coal phase out is over a period of the next 30 years. And it's got to be handled in a responsible manner, and a manner that is congruent with active labor market interventions, so that one ensures, because there's nothing automatic about justice in this process, as you point out, and there is nothing automatic that the new economic opportunities that are inherent in this process are going to be created in Mpumalanga as opposed to the Northern Cape and other locations. So this is going to require a very detailed case-by-case work, and that's why we're saying that we've already looked at Kamati as a proof of concept project. There are 4 other power stations that around which we've done feasibility studies, and we have to now make decisions about what the transitions in those 4 power stations are going to look like, how they will be repurposed, what new industries will be developed, and what is the upskilling and reskilling that is required. But ultimately, the central issue you're raising is, how are we going to look at a new development plan and a new development trajectory for the province of Mpumalanga? I know that the Mpumalanga government is interested in exploring this question. There was a summit that was supposed to have addressed it a couple of months back. I think more work is happening in it. But that is the key question that has to be addressed, is what is the long-term development trajectory of Mpumalanga? Tanya spoke about her own experiences in Germany. What my reading and research tells me is that there are bad transitions, and those that happened in France and to a certain extent in the Netherlands were not just and did not assist the coal-producing regions, but there are better examples in Germany and in Spain. And I think what we're trying to do as government is to learn from the good examples, share those good examples with communities, but ultimately involve communities in actually talking about what they want to see in their province in terms of future development trajectories. Thank you very much.
Can I maybe briefly add on this? I think what is very crucial here is that we have a look at, if on the one side we see the opportunities, I mean, we have a trajectory that the green hydrogen sector might create 250,000 jobs. Huh? Is that right? What we talked about. And the risk is that 100,000 jobs directly related to coal will get lost. So we have to bring this together. And how can we do this? We can do skill development, capacity building. And that is where German cooperation is very supportive. So we have to have a look at what do we have, what is the skills future green hydrogen, future renewable energy sectors need? Where are the mechatronics for the energy transition? And that is the crucial question, and I think we are very happy and very committed to cooperate on this.
All right, there's a second question there.
Hi, good afternoon. Sean Johnston from Sustainable Futures South Africa. I've just got a question for Tanya regarding your point on justice. And I think that's the crux of the matter at grassroots level. You mentioned you will be rolling out a justice program. What would that look like? And would it be across all provinces like the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga, or is it just going to be within Mpumalanga? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, Sean. You know, the great advantage I have that there is people in this room who know much better what we do about this than I do. And I would actually like to hand over the floor maybe to my colleague Thomas Scheff or Christian from the German Cooperation, and maybe they could elaborate a bit further on what we are actually doing and in which provinces on the Just SA pillar.
Thank you very much, and sorry for moving the panel to the back a bit. Well, to put it very, very shortly, is to do exactly what the minister has just said. Engage the local communities, look for alternative livelihoods, look for alternative development paths, and take that engagement seriously. I think one of the very strongholds of the South African process so far has been that it has been very inclusive. It can always be improved, the process, obviously, but I think exactly supporting that engagement by the South African actors, specifically in Mpumalanga province, in trying to find entry points in how alternative livelihood developments in the affected regions can be taken into consideration, can be developed, and then hopefully can be scaled and transferred to also other regions. So part of it, for instance, is support to the Clean Cluster Agency that the province of Mpumalanga has established during the conflicts around repurposed and decommissioned power plants like Komati and the other ones that are on the line. So it is basically working and supporting with the local actors in organizing the process, because it's everything but easy and everything but obvious, and it needs to be a very inclusive and driven by the local population and actors process. Maybe so much on a very broad level for now.
We're just going to take a few more questions before the panel wraps up in another 9 minutes.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Paul Ui, professor at the Flensburg University in Germany, working especially on coal transitions. And I have a question because the minister, you mentioned before that from your perspective, there is no competition between renewables needed for green hydrogen production and renewables needed for energy poverty eradication in the country. And my question would then expand this a bit more to the capacities, the financial capacities needed for green hydrogen, and how far do you or others see a potential competition in between investing either in green hydrogen or in other measures to help the coal regions to really transition, as we see that the JETP offers quite some money, but at the same time, it's still less money than the IP kind of needs. So therefore, there is a bit of scarcity of financial volume, and the question is, in how far is there a fight, how to use it the most efficient way to help the communities affected? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can, she's going to answer then.
I think the first thing to say is that we are conceptualizing these three transitions as happening together: the electric vehicle, the green hydrogen, and the beginning of the energy transition. And that's why we've developed one investment plan that covers all three of them, because each of them is a significant contributor or a potential contributor to our economy. And that's why we've packaged them together. And we drove the partners crazy in the early days of the negotiation, because they said, we want to talk about the phase down of coal. And we said, no, we want to talk about electric vehicles, that our vehicle manufacturing sector contributes 5% to the GDP. We want to talk about the possibilities in the green hydrogen sector, because it has the possibility to create 250,000 new jobs. So I think that it's precisely because we want to avoid the competition that we're conceptualizing the three together. Secondly, I think we need to recognize that different aspects of the plan require different types of financing. So if you are looking at the issues that were being raised by Ms. Khumalo and by Mr. Johnson on justice, you require grant financing and you require highly concessional financing, because you're going to be investing in activities that don't necessarily have an immediate revenue stream. Reskilling and upskilling of workers and so on doesn't necessarily have an immediate revenue stream. Obviously, if you're talking about energy generation, that has a revenue stream because you can sell the energy. So clearly you can look at private sector financing for some of that. We've already heard how we require development financing to look at upscaling the initial work we're doing around green hydrogen to commercial level. So again, you can see there's bilateral development financing required for that, which is different from what will be required at a later stage, which is essentially private sector financing. So we don't have all the answers. We are learning. As others have said, this is the first project of its nature in the world. Indonesia, as you know, has signed up to something similar. And I've already spoken to those involved in that partnership in Indonesia and made a request that we can come and look at what they're doing next year so that we can learn from it. So I don't want to pretend that we've got all the answers. We're going to have to learn those things. Yes, financing is scarce. That's why we're saying that ultimately the scale of finance that is required for climate transitions, not just in our country but across the globe, is going to require reform of the multilateral financial system. And it's going to require a mobilization of finance on a scale that the world hasn't seen yet. This obviously can be very important for a world that is facing severe lack of growth and lack of new development trajectories in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and some of the geopolitical tensions that you've heard earlier. We don't have a choice. Climate change is going to wipe all of us out unless we do something around it. We believe that it's no good sitting panicking about the future. We need to take active steps now so that we can unlock the economic potential that exists. And as we do that, we have to fight for the finances that will make it a reality. Thank you very much.
To build on that, moving out of coal is not just about shutting down coal power stations. Cecil is a critical player within the coal industry, which is why green hydrogen is such a critical pathway to decarbonize Cecil's operations, to leverage Cecil's technology in order to grow the economy. we're very conscious of the system within which coal operates. And to ensure justice, we need to ensure that all jobs are retained, or the number of jobs are retained and grown over time as the economy grows, which is why the 3 decarbonization pathways are critical. And if we start looking at the interlinkages in those, so we start transitioning out of new energy vehicles, that has an impact on the petrochemical industry. Decarbonizing Sasol has an impact on the petrochemical industry. So actually these 3 leading edges are the start of an economic transition economic transition. We need to start thinking about the petrochemicals industry and what that means. It has knock-on impact into the clothing and textile industry because, you know, the petrochemicals are a key input into that. So we have to think systemically about the decarbonization, not only of our economy, but of the global economy. And that really is, I think, what the just transition is for us. It's more than moving out of coal. It is about creating green, sustainable industrial industries and economies of the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joanne, and thank you very much to our panelists, Minister Barbara Creasy, Minister for Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Tanya Verheid, who's the German Consul General, Maria Shaw-Berrigan, who's the Director of Lending in Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, Asia, and Latin America from the European Investment Bank, Dr. Andrea Lovato, who's Executive Vice President and Global Head of Renewable Development at Aqua Power, and Joanne Bate, who's the Chief Operating Officer at the IDC. That's where we're going to leave it for now, but if you'd like to interact with our panelists more, we are having a light dinner and networking session from 4:30, which is in the next minute, outside on the square. Please go there. All delegates are invited. We really would like you to continue interacting, asking questions, meeting people from all over the world, and continue to talk about green hydrogen. And that's where we leave it for this panel. Thanks so much for your time and your attention. Good afternoon.